Hello, I'm Aram, and these are my favorite books that I read in August of 2025. So, let's go with the two that are at the end of the series. So, the first one is Christmas Shopaholic by Sophie Kinsella. This is the last one in the Shopaholic series. The Shopaholic series is basically, it starts with Confessions of a Shopaholic or The Secret Dream World of a Shopaholic, depending in which country you get it. And it follows our main character, Becky, who is a shopaholic. It's very much chick lit, it's not a romance. And by chick lit, I mean that's realistic fiction about a woman that isn't super serious. But yeah, it's realistic fiction, it's not a romance, so there is a romance in it. And as we follow the series, we just follow Becky's adventures, and they're very silly, fun time, and I really love the character relationships in them. Which is what really does it for me. Like, I don't really like stuff that are silly fun time, but Sophie Kinsella wrote character relationships so well that ended up loving the Shopaholic series. And she mostly stays the same. Becky mostly doesn't grow, but in the last few books, she does grow. And this book is kind of a culmination of all of the growing that she and her friends and her family have done, and like where they end up getting to. And I just thought it was a great book, that it was also like this culmination, and it also um Becky also learns more stuff here, and at the same time it was still a silly fun time, and there's just one scene that whenever I think about it I still laugh. Then the other one was Turning Darkness into Light by Marie Brennan. This is a sequel to the Lady Trent series, the Memoirs of Lady Trent series, which follows the journeys of a woman naturalist, dragon naturalist in the 19th century. And this follows her granddaughter, who is a linguist, and she gets asked to translate something that I cannot tell you because that would be spoilers. And there are some weird things happening. Like, she realizes that the people who asked her to translate the thing wouldn't usually be the kind of people who would ask her to translate the thing. Um, and yeah, so, but this book is not really about the plot. It's an epistolary book, but it's honestly not really about the plot. The ending is more so about the plot, but it's a lot about stories and history and the stories that make us a people, as in nations, and stuff like that. I also read The Angel of the Crows by Catherine Addison. This is Sherlock Holmes retelling. It is historical fantasy where there are angels, and Sherlock Holmes happens to be an angel. Now, an angel in this world is not an angel as we know it. They're a very, very specific thing, and Sherlock is kind of weird for what type of angel he is. Then John Watson, who is called Doyle, he is something. Is that a spoiler? Kind of a spoiler. Okay. Okay. I'll have to erase this part. Whatever. Anyways, so our main character is, of course, John Watson. He's telling us the whole story, but he's called Dr. Doyle. And I really like this. Now, is it the greatest book in the world? No. First of all, there are some things that Catherine Addison and I disagree on the characterization of Sherlock Holmes and John Watson. While I understood where she was coming from, I personally just disagreed with the assertion part of how she characterized Sherlock Holmes. But what's most important is that I understood where she was coming from. Like, if you just totally make something up, and are like, oh, Sherlock Holmes, then I'll DNF it. But I understood where she was coming from. The other thing is that I didn't really like is that it followed some stories, in my opinion, too closely. And like, I already know the stories really well. So, but overall, I thought it was really fun, and I thought the world she built was really, really interesting. Um, it was specifically the Hound of the Hound of the Basilisks, which is already not my favorite story. But yeah, she followed that really, really closely, and I got kind of annoyed because I was like, I already read this. But overall, when she did, that was just one part of it. The other stories she retold, I thought she did really well, and didn't follow them as closely as she did the Hounds of the Basilisk. And I really liked this world, and I really liked how she connected the world to the stories. Like, that was also part of what was missing me for me in the Hounds of the Basilisk, that she followed it because it was so long, I suppose, because the Hounds of the Basilisk is the Hound of the Basilisk is a novella. She felt she had to follow it more closely and add the twist only at the end. Whereas the other stories, it was like since they're shorter, like you can kind of. She felt more free to put in twists from like that connected to the world she created from the beginning. So that I really, really liked. I also didn't like the Jack the Ripper thing because my personal opinion is maybe let's stop telling stories about serial killers. Like, I know it's interesting, but it's. I don't like it at all. Like, it's a moral thing. But yeah, that was Angel of the Crows. And lastly, my favorite book was The City Beautiful by Ada Polydorus. This is another historical fantasy. It happens in Chicago in the 1890s, and we're following a Jewish immigrant whose friend and secret crush gets murdered. And as Dybbuk enters our main character's soul, right? So he has to find his friend's murderer in order to obviously get rid of the Dybbuk. And I thought this was I love this. I learned stuff from this about Jewish history, which is pretty unusual for me already. And obviously, you could tell the author did know a lot of stuff about Judaism. There was one thing about Judaism that he put in that really bothered me, an interpretation that I'm just like, where did you even get that from? But otherwise, you could tell he knew stuff about Jewish stuff, like not just about Judaism, but just like about Jewish community and yeah. And I thought it was awesome. I thought this was awesome.